I'm talking today to women who say they have been abducted by aliens from another planet. And you're going to describe to us what they look like now.
May I briefly say, I don't know for a fact that they're from another planet. I assume so, but I am dealing with a lot of unknowns. I don't know where they come from. I just can describe what I saw. I don't have the answers.
Well, you know you weren't in Kansas anymore, Toto.
And I wasn't wearing red shoes that I could click together either.
I mean, okay, so, and they look like?
They're humanoid as far as the body, very small frames, about 3.5 to 4 feet tall. And I found myself laughing to myself when I saw them because I just saw one being actually. Because the skin was very, very dark olive green, so dark it could be mistaken for black. And I even laughed to myself.
All right! All right!
No. I laughed to myself
We're
because...
in control in outer space! All right. Thank you.
I laughed to myself.
You know I believe you, girl. You know I believe you.
Is in Washington this week, calling on Congress to hold public hearings on UFOs.
Is there really life on other planets?
Two members plan to do with their information. They hope Congress and President Bush take notice.
Before a crowd of believers and skeptics, with cameras rolling, members of a group calling...
A group gathering here in Washington to talk about their UFO sightings, but this apparently is no crackpot convention. Former high-level government and military officials are among those sharing what they've seen in the skies.
These sightings.
By the way, there have even been some UFO sightings reported right here in the nation's capital. There was a flurry of them back in July of 1952 when the Air Force investigated but was never able to solve or prove anything. Take a look at these headlines. Ariel, what's its buzz? D.C. again. Air Force after D.C. saucers, jets ready to chase lights. Jets ordered to hunt down flying saucers. There was a lot of hype, a lot of excitement back in 1952.
A lot of people have been talking recently about some very strange lights in the sky that were caught on videotape. And see for yourself. This is the footage that's getting thousands of hits every day on YouTube. The person who claims to have shot the footage says it shows a triangle-shaped object moving at incredible speed in the skies over Dublin, Ireland.
A UFO in China's skies forced Zhoushan Airport to stop operations on July 7th. Outbound flights were grounded after the unidentified flying object was detected by a flight crew. The incident has captured the attention of Chinese media, and theories about the UFOs.
It's time to find out what the truth really is that's out there. We ought to do it really because it's right. We ought to do it because the American people, quite frankly, can handle the truth. And we ought to do it because it's the...
To a lot of countries who have the same sort of sightings and the same resources, that this is something that they better not let out. Not until we say it's okay.
A strange spiralling white light was spotted in the early morning sky over Sydney, with even sceptical witnesses wondering if it was a UFO. The unusual sight was recorded by hundreds of people from Victoria north to Queensland.
It appeared just before 6 o'clock this morning.
That's a UFO, I'm telling you.
A spiral in the sky around a bright light.
I mean, what in the hell was it?
Malcolm Richardson saw it move from west to east, disappearing into the sunrise.
It was actually rotating and throwing off a vapour, glowing vapour, in a spiral that was getting bigger.
He was not alone. Early morning surfers, farmers, truckies grabbed their phone cameras, still cameras, web cameras.
It's just the most astounding thing. I'm looking out the window now trying to see if it's come back or not.
From central Queensland to Melbourne, along the east coast, people shared a close encounter.
And this thing was moving at a rapid rate.
I thought, gee, that's so unusual.
I was just dumbfounded.
The Bureau of Meteorology confirmed it wasn't a weather phenomenon. Air traffic control say they didn't pick up their radar, and that looks 14 kilometres into the sky. And the radio telescopes near Canberra confirmed that it wasn't in deep space, so that leaves Earth's orbit.
As a skeptic, I had a lot of questions. So I first asked him if he had one incident that he would pick to convince people like me that aliens have indeed made contact with Earth.
Can be used to create chemical reactions that produce an electrical charge. Known as the Baghdad or Parthian battery, these materials date back 2,000 years. 10 years after their discovery, someone using grape juice with similar materials successfully generated a few volts of electricity. This process has since been demonstrated on the Discovery Channel's program Mythbusters, where lemon juice activated the electrochemical reaction between the copper and the iron, producing 4 volts of electricity. Nowadays, you can simply search online to find instructions on how to create your own battery using these chemical principles. But historians have long assumed that thousands of years ago there was no knowledge of this technology, that this archaeological find is mere coincidence, even though we've long marveled over artifacts with intricate gold plating, which requires electricity to be created. Quite simply, used in large power plants to the smallest pellet batteries in wristwatches, and you'll see that they require a metal, such as copper, to create the chemical reaction known as potential difference. You can run an electric current through copper wire, and the coil will produce a short-range magnetic field. Add a second coil, and the power is transferred from one coil to the other. A windowless room with copper wirings could create a higher potential on one wall, which transfers energy to the lower potential on the other wall, consequentially releasing electromagnetic energy into the confined space of the so-called Queen's Chamber. Sadly, these wires have since disappeared entirely, and mainstream Egyptologists claim there's no functionality whatsoever to this room, as they also claim there's no functionality of anything in this structure beyond the ways it serves as a tomb. Good place to note, however, that the foremost Egyptologist, Zahi Hawass, was indicted for theft of Egyptian antiquities. It could still be argued that the electrical materials used to construct the Great Pyramid are simply coincidental, because an energy generator still requires a catalyst from another source. Perhaps then this explains why the pyramids are geographically located over a powerful natural generator, underground rivers and aquifers. Physioelectricity could be harnessed from the power of the current as the water flows. And it has been proven that thousands of years ago, the Nile River passed directly by where the structures now stand. Of course, this brings in a debate about the age of the pyramids themselves, along with the weathering on the nearby Sphinx, indicating that the monuments are actually double the age they're currently assumed to be. Perhaps that would explain why there's no mention of the pyramids or their creation in any of the Egyptian writings. So if water was a source of power, it would have traveled up the limestone based on the principle of capillary action, which happens when a small area of a substance that gets wet absorbs into the entire area of that substance. So water flowing near or underneath the pyramid could have been absorbed as it passed over the limestone, even traveling